Hey guys, welcome back. Today is a continuation of my A to Z series of fragrance, and naturally the letter that follows A is the letter B. Today I'm going to talk about B for Bois de Portugal by Creed. Okay, Creed's Bois de Portugal was released in 1987, so it is one of their older fragrances, and I believe it was released a couple of years after Green Irish Tweed. The way I would describe it is it's a very classic masculine scent. Fragrantica has it classified as a woody oriental. The perfumier behind this fragrance is interesting because it's not Olivier Creed that's behind this fragrance. It's actually perfumier Pierre Bourdon. He's responsible for very well-known fragrances like Yves Saint Laurent's Kouros, Davidoff's Cool Water, and Mont Blanc's Individuel. So he's done quite a few well-known fragrances. Bois de Portugal is credited to him. The notes for Bois de Portugal, as listed in Fragrantica, top notes are bergamot, middle notes are lavender, and the base notes are cedar, sandalwood, vetiver, and Creed's ambergris. Now, when I started to expand my collection, Bois de Portugal was my very first foray into niche territory. So I found a place that sold decants online, and I was able to get myself a 30ml decan of Bois de Portugal, and that nice little sprayer. And that was a blind buy, so I had not sampled it up until that point or tested it in any stores, and I could only go by descriptions I'd read online. But essentially, when I did smell it for the first time, I really loved it. But the impression I got was it was a bit of a throwback to an era when men wore very masculine fragrances, but when I talk about masculine, I mean it really reminded me of a barbershop fragrance. Probably the lavender and the cedar is what I picked up the most from it. As I wore it for the first few times, I very quickly came to realise that it was a very strong scent, and I only needed a couple of sprays, and this thing is a monster. It really lasts, but it is such a beautiful dry down on this fragrance, and once the dry down is worth the price of admission. But not that the admission's very bad. If I'm talking about the opening is a very classic, sharp, bergamot, and very quickly transitions into the lavender, and then the lavender stays throughout and always sticks around with the base coming through, and that's the cedar and this beautiful creamy sandalwood and ambergris there. Now, I sprayed some on about half an hour ago on this arm, and I wanted to compare it to, I don't want to turn this into a full-blown review, but I did want to compare it to something in a price point that is a lot cheaper to the Creed, and it's in a similar ballpark, but they're not the same. And this certainly is no copy or clone of Bois de Portugal, but they're just in the same kind of. I would describe this one as a woody oriental as well, quite spicy, and that is Aramis Havana. Now, what I did was spray Bois de Portugal on this arm and Havana on this arm, both at the same time, and it's probably not enough time to go right into the dry down, but I'll just have a sniff now. See, this one, the Bois de Portugal, is still got the lavender definitely prominent, and it's sitting on top of that cedar sandalwood comes through probably a little bit later, and that's what makes the dry down heavenly on this, and it lasts forever. So we're talking at least 10 hours on the Bois de Portugal. The Havana itself is no slouch in terms of longevity, but see, this dry down is actually very, very similar, the Havana, but it probably hasn't got the thickness or depth of the Bois de Portugal. So on this one, it's really, the Havana's really lacking what probably the sandalwood and ambergris are bringing to the Bois de Portugal. But I tell you what, it's probably to a completely novice nose, they would be hard pressed to take a sniff quickly and really tell the difference. So that's really interesting. So if you want to get an idea of what Bois de Portugal is about, you could do worse than have a sniff of Aramis Havana, and if you like that, obviously there's tobacco in Havana that Bois de Portugal doesn't have, but they're very, very much in the same ballpark. I'm just going to do another spray to get the immediate opening between the two as well. So this is Bois de Portugal. Definitely the bergamot is prominent in the opening here. It's beautiful, beautiful bergamot note. Whereas I think the Havana is a lot spicier and a darker opening. It's definitely more tobacco prominent. So if we're comparing these two, the Havana is a great scent and amazing value at a lower price point. They're different fragrances, but in the dry down they're pretty similar. But the Bois de Portugal is probably a level above in the opening and a level above in the dry down. So it probably that's what sets it apart in terms of value. They are different, and you cannot go wrong for $30 a bottle of Havana versus, you know, again 10 times more for a full bottle of Bois de Portugal. But this will remain probably with Green Irish Tweed in my two favourites from the Creed house. I hope they don't discontinue it. It's been a mainstay, and it hasn't. This one doesn't get talked about as much as the other Creeds in the line. There have only been two, you know, notable reviews in YouTube frag community that I've seen. One of them being Mr. Smelly 1977. Dan did a great review of his Bois de Portugal. It's a classic gentleman scent. It is probably more suitable for someone 30 and up. I don't like putting age restrictions on fragrances, but I just can't imagine a young man wearing this unless that's his personality or that's the mood he's going for. And this is great with a suit, and you're out to impress and be the alpha male. You want Bois de Portugal. That's the A to Z, B today. I'll see you next time for the A to Z, C. Thanks for watching.